guys, I'm Grace, and this is Dollies and Dread. I am here today with my co-host of the week, my mom. Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
So, this week we are covering the case. This is an actual true crime case. I know last week was Reddit stories, and that was lots of fun, but my whole goal with this was to do true crime, and, you know, I love folklore and scary stories and stuff like that, but true crime, I want it to be the main focus. So this week we are covering the case of Mary Vincent, and this one's a doozy, and we have some trigger warnings in here for, just to let y'all know up front, we have mentions of rape, sexual assault, and suicide. So if that is not something you would like to hear about, maybe skip out on this episode and check out the next one. So, hitchhiking was abundant in the 1970s, and many people who partook did not think twice about accepting a ride from a complete stranger. In many cases, they were dropped off on the way to or at their destination, and that was the end of it. However, there were many times where this was not the case. One such instance was with Mary Vincent, a mere 15 years old at the time of her brutal encounter. Mary Vincent was a 15-year-old girl from Las Vegas. Sources say Mary's relationship with her parents was tenuous at best, and they often butted heads. She ran away from home to live with her boyfriend in Sausalito, California, and was living with him up until he faced charges for raping a teenage girl. After the arrest of her boyfriend, Mary traveled south to Soquel, California, and stayed briefly with an uncle. We're gonna quick pause here also. I looked up pronunciations, and I don't know if I'm anywhere near the mark, so just bear with me on these names. I'm doing my best. On September 29, 1978, Mary had decided to hitchhike the 400-mile trek to her grandfather's home in Corona, California. Just outside of Modesto, California, Mary was approached by a man in a van who claimed he was traveling to Reno, Nevada, but could get Mary to the Los Angeles area. This man was Lawrence Singleton, a merchant seaman from Tampa, Florida. Allegedly, there were even some other people hitchhiking alongside Mary who told her not to go with the man. However, Singleton told her, "I've got a daughter about your age," which helped put Mary at ease, and an exhausted Mary decided to take the ride. Singleton, while seemingly a friendly, normal 50-year-old man, had a history of alcohol abuse, a previous conviction of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and had been recently divorced from his second wife. So it is 2023, and I cannot fathom, and maybe it's because I have kids and I just can't picture that, I can't fathom going and just hitchhiking.
No, that's really scary.
You're a gal of the 70s.
You never know. Actually, I was born in 68.
I know when you were born. That's what I'm saying. Okay, but Mary this was 1978, so this was 10 years. You were 10 at this time. Mary was only 15.
But I had older brothers and sisters.
Right, I was going to say you had, how many sisters?
5 sisters and a brother. But at that time, I mean, it was pretty common to hitchhike. Right. So that wasn't unheard of as a method of getting from one place to another. Car. You know, you might walk. People walked more places anyway. So people might would stop and pick them up.
Yeah, no, I don't know. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I'm paranoid and I literally have this podcast dedicated to true crime. So I just am I like to call it prepared. I don't know if I call it paranoid. But no judgment, because I was totally, like you were saying, that's like nobody really thought twice about, catching a ride if they needed to get somewhere. I don't know. And maybe like the internet and media has just made it more prominent. Like it was probably still happening, just, you know what I mean? Like there was probably still problems, but me personally, I am paranoid about Uber. I'm suspicious of my Uber drivers sometimes, and they're literally paid through a program to pick you up, and you're paying for that ride.
Right. And back at that time, people, like I said, they would, there was more freedom. Things weren't quite as cut and dry as they are now. And you're coming out of the 60s, 70s, that whole freedom laissez-faire. So things were, I mean, there were two.
Yeah, just bad people all around. Ooh, yeah, I don't know. Freaks me out, just the thought of it. So, okay. Things seemed normal enough with Singleton in the beginning of the ride, but became uncomfortable very quickly. When Mary sneezed after lighting a cigarette, Singleton reached out and laid his hand on Mary's neck, asking her if she was sick. Do not touch me. If he even looked at my neck, I would have been tucking and rolling. And again, I'm not victim blaming here. I'm just a natural, like, I'm just paranoid, you know? But it's like, don't perceive me. I don't want to be perceived, you know? I just can't imagine a grown man, like, thinking about myself when I was 15. And this, like, Lawrence Singleton, he was 50 at the time of this. So it's just like, I mean, that would make me think of Dad. Like, my dad was 50. So, I mean, I don't know, naturally distrusting, but also, I don't know, it gives me the ick that he was, like...
Someone's reaching in your space.
Right, so like a strange man, and oh, yeah, no. Taken aback by this inappropriate and unwelcome act of physical touch, Mary jerked away from Singleton. Shortly after, that being the end of it, Mary drifted off to sleep. Upon awakening, however, she discovered they were headed in the opposite direction of where she was promised to be taken, traveling back towards Nevada. Obviously frightened, Mary threatened Singleton with a sharp stick she found in the van, demanding he turn around and take her to where they were supposed to be heading. Singleton did, saying he was, quote, just an honest man who made a mistake. Having turned around and seeming genuinely regretful to have caused her distress, Mary proceeded with the ride as originally planned. And again, no judgment, but that is, to me, red flag. I'd say red flag number 3, because if that is true, and there were many sources that I read, and I do have all my sources linked in the description if anybody wants to check those out. But I feel like if that is the case, where there were other hitchhikers telling her, do not get in the van with him. Because supposedly there were other hitchhikers saying don't. Like, because he was saying that he only had room for one. That was another source. I didn't put it in here because I only saw it in one. Supposedly, Singleton said, no, I only have room for one of you. And they were like, ooh, don't go with him. But, I mean, you know, I just, ooh. So that's...
Well, there's several.
Oh, there are many.
Sharp stick.
Right, why do you... What is his bonfire stick? It's for his marshmallows. During their journey, Singleton pulled the van over to use the restroom, and Mary got out to stretch her legs. Also want to say, I know we gave trigger warnings at the beginning, but the next part is quite violent and graphic. Please proceed at your own discretion. Mary bent down to tie her shoe, and this is when Singleton struck her in the back of the head with a sledgehammer. He beat her until she collapsed, then proceeded to sexually assault and rape her, telling her if she cries out, he'd kill her, to obey him if she wanted to live. After the initial assault, Singleton bound Mary's hands, put her in the van, and drove. When he stopped next, he got Mary out, cut her hands free, and made her drink from a plastic jug filled with an unidentified alcohol and continued to assault her. When Mary came to, Singleton made her lie on the edge of the road while she begged him to set her free. Singleton said, quote, "You want to be free? I'll set you free." Then, from just below the elbow, he hacked Mary's arms off with a hatchet. He then shoved Mary's lifeless body down an embankment and stuffed her into a concrete pipe. He said, "Okay, now you're free," and left Mary for dead. Mary, however, regained consciousness. Naked, on her own, and bleeding profusely, Mary packed her wounds with mud to help staunch the bleeding, and held them in the air as she trekked out of what she would later learn was the Del Puerto Canyon. Mary made it 3 miles to a car, who she screamed at for help. The occupants, however, unaware of the horrors Mary had just endured, drove away in fright. Fortunately for Mary, a second car approached, this time a young married couple. They wrapped Mary's arms in linens and drove her to an airport nearby where they called an ambulance. All Mary could say upon being saved was, "He raped me." I cannot imagine 15 years old having the forethought, and this was something else that I meant to type up in here, but I figured I'd just mention it. And I believe this is in one of the articles. Mary said her mom, whenever she was little, she cut her finger, and her mom told her, "Hold it above your heart to stop the bleeding." And Mary said that is what saved her life, because I can't imagine packing the wounds with mud, which sufficiently stopped the bleeding, because, you know, you think, like, many veins and arteries and main things below the elbow, you know, and to a completely severed both arms below the elbow. To be 15 years old and to, first of all, have the will to live enough to get up out of that concrete pipe, and to then sit there and think, okay, I need to stop the bleeding. I need to pack this with mud, you know, and then hold my arms above my head while I try to hike 3 miles, practically bleeding out. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they didn't help her, that first car. But you have to think about it. You have no idea, like, who this person is that's just coming up on you, covered in blood, naked. Like, that would have freaked me out, you know? Like, I would have drove off.
Right. And just think about today. I mean, those are scams.
Yes, there are people
that will set a baby stroller out on the side.
Well, think of the girl. There's a girl right now who she got out of her car because she saw a toddler, and it's just, I mean, maternal instinct. She just went to go help this toddler. She got kidnapped, and I haven't done a lot of research on that. That's like recent news. There literally, people are crazy. Like, there are people these days, like you're saying, like, it's a scam. They'll lay in the road and they want you to stop your car and get out, and then you get robbed or killed or...
In her time, I mean, even people, you know, went past her, you know, scared to stop and get her, but there was so much more freedom then, too, that she actually got help. You know, and now,
oh, yeah.
You know, you really...
Yeah, she's lucky that second car stopped. And one of the sources that I read said that, I swear, I think that everything happens for a reason, and they're like, one of the sources I looked at said that this married couple, they were not even supposed to be on that road. They made a wrong turn, and that's why they were on that road. So the fact that they did that, and, you know, I just, like you're saying, she's lucky because, well, I won't say lucky, but, you know, if it were today, probably wouldn't have gotten help. So, but I mean, we also have cell phones today too. So, you know, like me, if I saw something like that, absolutely, I'm not going to stop, you know, but like, okay, well, I'll call 911 from my phone in my car. But like it said, while researching this, I was a little disconnected reading it, because I was like, what do you mean they drove her to an airport? Like, her arms are hacked off and she's bleeding out, and they took her to an airport? And then it hit me, this is the 70s. They don't have cell phones. That's probably the closest phone they could get to. So I think that's another thing too, is cell phones. Like, you're probably not going to get, probably no one's going to stop to help, but they're probably going to make a phone call. And
right, without you know, saying that.
Right. Well, and that's a maybe too, though, because there's a psychological principle. There was a woman, I learned about this in multiple of the psychology classes that I took in high school and college, and there was a woman being raped, and I think he was stabbing her. She's screaming for help. People came outside, looked out their windows, and were looking down at her. And every single person thought, oh, someone else will call. I'm going to mind my business. Someone else will call. And you'll hear me say this on this podcast, and I think you heard me say it on the first episode. See something, say something. It costs nothing. And do not assume that somebody else is going to call, because they may not. Like this girl, she died needlessly. She could have been saved because the guy ran off when he first, like, people started coming outside when she was yelling. As soon as he realized, oh, no one's helping her, no one's stopping me, he kept going and he killed her. And like, so yeah, no, that is a big key point I want people to take away from this podcast, is see something, say something. It costs nothing. You're not going to get in trouble if you think that something's happening that should not be happening, and you call, you know, and say they get 20 calls. Awesome. Maybe they'll take it more seriously. But anyway, yeah.
Well, that's the advice now today, is because of a stroller on the side of the road, or whatever thing that's happening to lure you in. They're saying, do not stop, but call.
Yeah. No, see, and I was thinking about that too, because I was like, oh, who's going to fall for that? Thinking about, like, people laying in the road. People do. And it's people with good hearts who get taken advantage of. If I had been that woman, I would be the one missing right now. I'm telling you right now. Because if I saw a toddler in the road, I have 2 little kids, you know, I have 2 babies. I am immediately going to get out to help that kid. Not now. You know, now I have more perspective with that happening. But, like, I can absolutely see how that happened. And people are just evil. Like, I can absolutely, because that'd be the one that would get me, you know. But I am glad that these people did stop for Mary and that they were in the right place at the right time, because who knows what fate Mary would have met if they didn't stop and they were the only people that she saw for the rest of the night, you know.
And it doesn't hurt. People would actually stop.
Yeah, no kidding. After arriving at the hospital, Mary gave police such a detailed description of Lawrence Singleton, he was identified by the police sketch almost immediately. After Singleton was identified and apprehended, he was adamant that 15-year-old Mary was a sex worker. He denied any wrongdoing, the coward of a man even going as far as to call her a $10 a night whore. He claimed there was a second individual in the van who was threatening him with false accusations. He was arrested and charged with Mary's attack. In the months leading up to the trial, Mary endured a life-saving surgery, was fitted with prosthetics, and given intensive psychotherapy to help deal with the trauma she went through at the hands of Lawrence Singleton. 6 months after her attack, Mary gave a very detailed and thorough account of her attack in court, referring to Singleton only as my attacker. At one point, Mary gestured to one of her prosthetic arms, saying, "He did this to me," indicating Singleton. After leaving the stand, in an attempt to further intimidate and frighten Mary, Singleton told her, "I'll finish this job if it takes me the rest of my life." Despite Singleton's denials, threats, and his own accusations, at one point even attempting to sue Mary for threatening him with the sharp stick, he was found guilty on an abundance of charges, including rape and attempted murder. During the 1970s, however, the penalties for sex crimes were far more lenient than they are today, leading Singleton to be sentenced to a mere 14 years in San Quentin prison, the maximum sentence he could be given at the time. Somehow, though, only 8 years after his attack on Mary, Singleton was released on good behavior, even with the protests from his own family stating he was likely still a serious danger to the public. Mary, once again fearing for her life, went into hiding. So, I have a lot of
good behavior.
I feel as though, me personally, if you hack someone's arms off and do the things he did to her, I can't help but feel like you shouldn't ever get out on good behavior. There is no good. There's no good. There's just behavior. So, there was another point I wanted to address. So, first of all, that is incredible. Again, 15 years old, 6 months after the attack, to sit on that stand. What a brave woman. Like, what an amazing, like, I'm just...
Didn't she say that she, like, that's one of the reasons she survived? That she wanted for him to get caught.
Yeah, and that was it. And I don't know if I don't think I put that in here because I couldn't find the source. I listened to another podcast, and I'm sure their sources, I think I told you. I mentioned this case to you, yeah, before we knew you'd be my co-host for the week, or I wouldn't have said anything, yeah. Well, yeah, no, that was one of the things, and again, I had more limited sources. I was a little more pressed for time on this one, but I, did the best with what I had. But there was, at one point, I have heard that that's what Mary said, that's the reason. She was like, I can't die in this hole, because I've got to get up, because if I don't do everything I can to stop him, he's going to do it to someone else. And again, 15 years old, that's incredible. But a 15-year-old, there are many grown people, men and women, who cannot get on the stand. They cannot face their attacker. And no shame in that either. Because I cannot even fathom the trauma that, some people go through. But at 15 years old, to sit there and look that man in the face and say, he's the one who did this to me. And good on her for not calling him anything but her attacker, because that's all he is. He's an animal. He does not even deserve to be addressed with a name. Like, she's just amazing. And if there is one thing that people like this have, it is the audacity. That's what Jess said last episode too. She said if there's one thing men have, it's the audacity. And if that is not true in this case, then it's not true in any case. Because, are you kidding me? He sued her. This man he cut her arms off, violently assaulted her, tried to kill her. And if circumstances had been a little different, he probably would have. He sued her. Just to make sure you guys are hearing me, he sued her for pointing a sharp stick at him Are you kidding me? Pointed a sharp stick at him, and he sued her.
He's so scared he cut her.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, no, that was totally self-defense. 100%. No. She was 15. You're a 50-year-old man. We'll get it.
Is that also why you said he raped her? Because she scared him?
I guess. He was like, man, that's the only thing I could do to keep that sharp stick out of my... I can't. I just can't. Man, like, what is wrong with him? We'll get into a little bit more of Singleton's audacity, and I'm not sure I wrote all that in here. Like I said, this was in a rush, but I do know this case very, very well. This is the case that got me into true crime, which is why I wanted to cover it for my first one. We'll come back to some more audacity from Lawrence Singleton. Like I said, I know a whole lot about this case, and I don't know if I have a source. I'll have to find one. If anybody wants to see it, I'm not lying, I promise. I can find a source, but we will get into some more of that here in just a little bit. So, all right, back to the story. His early release caused national outrage, so much that a new bill was passed called the Singleton Bill, which prevents early release from prison for any crimes involving torture, with the minimum sentence also being raised to 25 years. However, this was too little too late for one woman. In 1997, 31-year-old Roxanne Hayes, working as a sex worker at the time to provide for her 3 children, was brutally murdered at the hands of Lawrence Singleton. 20 years after her own attack, Mary Vincent would face her attacker once more, this time making sure Singleton would never see freedom again. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to death, but died of cancer in 2001 before his sentence could be carried out. So, he got out on good behavior, quote unquote, good behavior, just to turn around and kill Roxanne. And this one was like also brutal because like neighbors were calling and being like, hey, I think my neighbor's murdering somebody. And the police show up and they're like, hey man, what's going on? And he was like, they were like, what's all the blood from? He was like, oh, that I was cooking and I cut my hand on cutting up some vegetables. And meanwhile, the police are like looking at Roxanne dead behind him. So he's just the narcissism. What did he think they were gonna just, oh, okay. Well, yeah, man, good, you know, slap a band-aid on it. You'll be all right. Like, what is the thought process? I don't understand. And
well, I'm thinking about thought processes. He accused Mary of being a sex worker.
Mm-hmm.
And so his next is a sex worker. So is that he's trying to validate what he said before? You know,
I think he just has, yeah, no, for sure. I think he just has no value on women's lives, but especially sex workers, because clearly he thought saying, oh, well, Mary was a sex worker, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Like, he placed no value on human life, especially on sex workers, because he was basically trying to justify it. Which, granted, he denied any wrongdoing, so I don't think he was saying, oh, she's a sex worker, so it's okay that I chopped her arms off. I think he was just trying to be like, you know, I mean, kind of that, but like, it's just the fact he thought he was going to get away with that just what is just so mind-blowing to me. Which, I mean, the narcissism, it's just astonishing. The ego, be like, just think that you're smarter than the cops, you know, and a lot of these cases have that. You'll see that in like BTK. I know that's one I reference a lot, and I will be covering that one probably here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but yeah, we'll just jump right back in here. In 1998, Mary traveled to Washington, D.C. to testify in favor of a bill called No Second Chances for Murderers, Rapists, or Child Molesters, sharing the details of her attack once again in front of members of Congress. Unfortunately, this bill was not passed. During her testament, Mary ended by saying, I have now obtained the long overdue psychological counseling to help me get over my nightmares and fear, yet sometimes I still feel like that confused 15-year-old runaway trapped in the body of a 35-year-old mother of 2. No one should ever have to go through what I went through or what the children of Roxanne Hayes will go through without their mother. So that's chilling, and I actually, in the description with my sources, I pulled this from another article, but that is from the case, and I actually do have this, like, courtroom case in the description if you want to go take a look at that. I could not find exactly why it was denied. Congress is just Congress, so we'll just leave it at that. But, like, that's chilling. And I can't believe, like, that, in my opinion, that should have been passed. Because are you kidding? Like, it's just no second chances. They should not. I don't know. I can't.
So is that saying no early create? Or is it?
I think this court file is like very, very, very long. Like I said, it was very pressed for time because I'm trying to get this. It's currently Saturday.
I haven't read it.
Yeah, no. So it's Saturday at 11 p.m. and I'm trying to have this whole thing edited and uploaded, like scheduled to upload for Tuesday. So we're just trying to knock it out. But I did include that in case anybody wants to look. My understanding is it's just saying no second chances. If there's evidence and you get convicted of that and put away for that, you don't get out. And I agree with that because I don't think anybody, and this may ruffle feathers, but I don't really care. So I just don't think, and depending, and maybe that was it, the murderers, like, because, you know, there are false convictions and stuff, but like rapists and child molesters, I think once they're convicted of that, there's evidence they are put away for that, they absolutely should rot. They should not be let out because I can't see anybody. I don't care if you are like, oh, I'm a brand new person. I don't care. I just don't care. If you can do that to somebody once, you're an animal and you belong in a cage. And that's my opinion. So
it's rehabilitation.
Not for them. You can't rehabilitate that. You can't rehab a rapist or a child molester. That is something fundamentally wrong. And now, see, and that's, I need to read that case file, I think, because murderers, yes, absolutely. And depending on the degree, like involving torture, absolutely. First degree murder, absolutely. And I get it, it's for rehab, and I'm sure there are many differing opinions, but I think they should rot. And I think that bill should have been passed, and it's very unfortunate that it didn't. And I can't help but wonder, since all this happened, you know, this was now, what, 25 years ago, that bill was not passed. I can't help but wonder how many lives could have been saved and how much trauma could have been spared to victims had this bill been passed. And again, that is just my opinion. But
and how that would relate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I agree. Like, I don't know. And it's tricky. It's a difficult subject that nobody wants to talk about, but I really think a bill like that would have been good. And like I said, I need to look into it because I don't know if there was something fundamentally wrong with, you know, what they were trying to pass. I just know it exists, and if you would like to look into it yourself, you are more than welcome to do so. Link is in the description. I wanted to link all my sources just so everybody has them. But Mary, also now, I guess I could have included more about this, but I'll just tell y'all about it. Mary is amazing. Like, such a strong woman. Like, you know, like you're saying, she has two little daughters, and this was, you know, this is 1998. And so...
She was how old? She was 30.
At this point, she was 35. Whenever she had her, too. Yeah.
I'm doing the math.
Roughly. She was 15. 11 o'clock on a Saturday, yeah. But no, Mary, she does art. Unfortunately, she liked to dance, but during the surgery on her arm, just to save one of her arms, they had to take part of her leg, I believe, and so that she was no longer able to dance. But she is an artist. I believe she paints. I need to look into that one before I say that and post this. So, quick Google. I don't know. I guess it's just because I paint and I automatically associate art with painting. But she does art. It says she's an artist. Google says she's an artist. She generally avoids, like, the spotlight and all that, you know. And I don't blame her. I think I would want to just live the rest of my life as normal as possible. And I hope I did her justice in this because she is amazing. And I think she is incredible. From 15 years old until now, just an amazing lady. Like, the willpower to live and to help people and everything that she did after this. And you know, that's got to be a good mom to those kids. But
and to go on,
mm-hmm.
you know, some semblance of normal life.
Right, some semblance of normalcy.
In
mm-hmm.
life, but you know, it's not very surprising, I guess. So strong
mm-hmm.
in to survive.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I can only imagine how those girls feel, because they're, I mean, you know, she was saying mother of 2, and that was in 1998, so I guess her girls would be grown now. I don't know exactly how they were, probably near my age, somewhere in the vicinity of my age, but I think that's all the commentary I have, and this was a doozy. I know this was pretty intense. Mom, what's a good thing that happened to you this week? We'll end it on a positive note. Anything good happened to you this week?
Moved your sister into.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I mean, that was good. I'm happy for her.
That was bad for me.
Miss her.
Mom wants to see me suffer.
Terribly,
I want her to come back. No, she's
spending time with you.
Is that the highlight of your week?
Absolutely.
My existence was the highlight of my mom's week. The highlight of my week was also this. You coming in clutch at 10 p.m. and letting me come over and make you co-host this with me.
Well, I did answer that.
You did answer the phone, and I bullied you into it. She's here against her will. Yeah. Anyway, well, I think that's all I've got. So, if you want to hear more true crime and scary stories while at work, make sure to like and subscribe. New videos come out every Tuesday. If you have a scary story you'd like to share, you can send that to my Instagram at Dolls & Co. That's Dolls and KOE. Until next time, stay aware and be prepared.